In an educational environment, teaching and learning are top priorities. Another top priority on campuses throughout the district is safety. Over the years, you've all been trained to respond to different safety situations while on campus. Just as scholastic information is updated over time, so are standard response protocols for safety. In this video, you'll be presented updated information on the proper responses for certain critical incidents and safety protocols. Please pay attention to this information and write down any questions you may have so they can be answered at the end. The Schertz Police Department, in conjunction with the Schertz Cibolo Universal City ISD and the I Love You Guys Foundation, would like to introduce the standard response protocol for students and teachers. You've probably seen these posters around school and in the classrooms. You probably noticed the icons. We're going to talk about what these 4 icons mean in this video. Schools across the country are adopting a standard to enhance student and staff safety during an incident or emergency. The key is that there's a simple, shared vocabulary between students, staff, and first responders. And when used, everyone involved shares the same expectations. Who are we sharing this vocabulary with? We start with the first responders. So if something happens at one of our schools, they'll know what to do. The same vocabulary is shared with the students, so you know what to do. Teachers and staff are given the same training. And it's also important to tell your parents what we do here at school. This protocol is based on 4 actions that we take during a critical incident: lock out, lock down, evacuate, and shelter. Each action is followed by a directive. Lock out, secure the perimeter. Lock down, locks, lights, out of sight. Evacuate, to the announced location. Shelter, for a hazard using a safety strategy. Every action then has specific instructions of what to do in a crisis. When these are called on the public address system, the action and directive are repeated. Lock out, secure the perimeter. Lock out, secure the perimeter. The reason for a lockout could be there is a threat outside of the building, criminal activity, a suspicious person, or possibly a dangerous animal outside. Here's what happens during a lockout. Staff will lock all outside doors, and no one is allowed in or out of the building.
Lockouts are typically called for by law enforcement officials.
Hi, this is Evan with the Broomfield Police Department.
Or district personnel.
A lockout. Okay, thank you for the information. Bye-bye.
Attention students, we're in lockout, secure the perimeter. Lockout, secure the perimeter.
The goals of a lockout are to get all students and staff inside the building.
Guys, come on in. You need to get inside. Go to the first classroom on the right. Hurry, 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 hurry.
And then lock all exterior doors. In most cases of a lockout, it will be business as usual inside the school. However, in some cases, a lockdown may also be issued in conjunction with a lockout, particularly if the threat is near the school.
Let's start with student instructions on what to do in a lockout. First one's simple: get in the building. But that brings up a question about notification when students or staff are outside. How are they notified? This could possibly come via radio system, public address system, or from a teacher or staff member. For the most part, it's business as usual inside the building. If a lockout lasts into recess or lunch, the lockout instructions will remain that no one is allowed to enter or exit the school buildings. The same parameters are in place for the end of the school day. Depending on the reason for the lockout, students may have to remain inside the building or call their parent to come pick them up. Now let's look at what teachers should do during a lockout. Bring the students inside. If there are exterior doors in the classroom, make sure they're locked. Teachers may be asked to check if nearby exterior doors are propped open. Increase your situational awareness. Be attentive. Teachers should also verify that everyone is still in class. It's a good idea to note the time that attendance was taken. Inside the classroom during a lockout, teachers may continue class activities and instruction. When might a lockout occur? When there's a threat or danger outside of the school. We talked about some examples. Here are some more: high-speed chase, suspicious person, demonstration, custody issue, or maybe even a fire in the neighborhood. Who can call a lockout? Students can call a lockout by reporting it to a staff member. Teachers can call a lockout by reporting it to the main office. This should occur without having to go through a chain of command. Most of the time during a lockout, in-building class changes will still occur. If a school has portable buildings, students and staff may be brought into the main building. This is only to occur when instructed to do so, typically by law enforcement personnel. If a threat is very close to the school, the response may be to go into lockout and lockdown. Are students and staff allowed to leave the school campus? Usually not, due to the safety threat. This means that even when the school day ends, students may have to remain inside the building until the threat no longer exists. Lockdown. Locks, lights, out of sight. Lockdown. Locks, lights, out of sight. Lockdown is used when there's a threat inside the school building. It could be a mentally unstable individual, or maybe even a non-custodial parent. It could be an armed intruder or some other danger.
If you are in a classroom when a lockdown is called, the main thing to remember is locks, lights, out of sight. As students gather in a safe area of the room, lock the door and turn off all lights. Have everyone in the room move to a location that is out of sight. Pick an area of the room that can't be seen from interior windows. An actual lockdown may not be resolved for several hours. Here's how you should wait. Stay in the safe location. Don't move around the room. Remain silent. Staff, take written attendance of who is in the room. Note anyone missing and if you have any extra students or staff.
Let's look at what students should do during a lockdown. First, stay out of sight from the corridor window. How do you know you're out of sight? If you can't see out of the corridor window, no one in the hall can see you. Also, sit on the floor and get low. A locked door is a proven time and safety barrier. Having a locked door reduces the risk of harm or injury to the people inside. Be absolutely silent. Turn your phone off in the initial stages of a lockdown. If there is an actual lockdown, you'll get a chance to text your parents later on. Do not open the door for anyone. Administrators or law enforcement will unlock the door and release the room. Let's look at what teachers should do in a lockdown. When you hear lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight, depending on what you see and hear, you might want to visually sweep the hallways for students. If the threat is close to your classroom, focus on getting the door locked and closed as quickly as possible. A locked classroom door is a proven lifesaver. Turn out the lights. Usually there's no need to raise or lower the outside window shades because the threat is inside the building. The goal is to get out of sight behind a locked door as quickly as possible. Leave the corridor window uncovered. Law enforcement needs to see inside the room from the hallway. Science rooms often have 2 doors with corridor windows, making it difficult to get out of sight. In this case, it may be beneficial to cover one of the corridor windows. More law enforcement agencies are recommending not sliding red or green cards underneath the doors. The reasoning is twofold. First, they won't believe the message until they have verified the status of the classroom, and you are giving too much information to the person inside that poses the threat. Be silent and maintain student silence. Turn off your phone. If you're with young students, it may be soothing to very quietly read to them. A lockdown cannot be ended with a public announcement. It only ends with administration or police opening the door and releasing the room. If you can, take attendance. Note if you have missing students or extra students swept in from the hall. Note the time. You probably won't need to do anything with the roster at this point, but we're creating a chain of custody, and this will be useful over the life cycle of the event.
If a fire alarm sounds, do not leave your safe location unless you are certain that a fire is threatening your room. If you are forced to evacuate due to a fire, keep in mind that the hall may not be your best escape route.
The difference between a lockout and a lockdown. A lockout is when the threat is outside of the building. A lockdown is when there is a threat inside the building. After securing the perimeter, lockout is business as usual. That means classroom instruction and activities can continue. Lockdown is locks, lights, and out of sight. What if you're outside? If you're outside and a lockdown is called, do not go back into the building. Rather, go to a safe location. What if there's no teacher? Getting behind a locked door is possible. If not, close the door and hide. You may try to evacuate if the threat is not in your immediate vicinity. What if you're in the hallway? Teachers check the halls quickly before they lock and turn the lights out. Get to a classroom, any classroom, as quickly as you can and lock down. If the classroom's already locked, then find a place to hide. Do not go from classroom to classroom. Evacuating may be another option. What if the fire alarm sounds? Stay in the classroom until you see a fire or if smoke is filling your classroom. If you must evacuate due to a fire or smoke, the hallway may not be your best option. Consider using an alternate door, window, or any other exterior exit. Can we text our parents? If the time immediately after a lockdown is called, remain silent and silence your phone. As the event evolves, you'll be given an opportunity to text your parents. Evacuate is how to move students in an orderly fashion from point A to point B. A fire drill is really evacuate out of the building. With the standard response protocol, evacuate is always followed by a location. For instance, evacuate to the gym, evacuate to the gym. Here's what students should do. Leave your personal belongings and backpacks behind. Be sure to listen for any new directions. Teachers, there may be cases where you lead students, or there may be cases where you follow the students out. In a police-led evacuation, you'll probably be the ones to lead the students. Once you reach the designated evacuation site, teachers will be taking attendance and note the time. During an active violence event, another option is to self-evacuate.
During the initial moments of a school violence situation, the official call for a lockdown may not have occurred or not have been heard by everyone. You need to assess your personal safety. Consider your best option. This may include staying in a classroom behind a locked door, hiding, or evacuating. Self-evacuation, which means exiting the school and leaving the campus, is an option. If you're in a hallway, common area, or near an exterior door, self-evacuation may be your best choice. Once you've arrived at a safe location, you should immediately check in with your parents and the school district to let them know you're safe. When law enforcement begins the evacuation, here's what to expect. An officer will unlock your door and enter the room. Stay where you are. The officer will give you specific instructions you must follow.
Broomfield Police Department, you're safe, everything's okay, we're going to get you out of the building. I need everyone to follow my instructions. I need a single file line, leave all your personal property on the floor where it is, form me a single file line right here at the door. Teacher, I need you in front, please.
You will be asked to leave your stuff behind, form a line at the door with the teacher in front.
I need everyone to hold hands with the person to your right and left.
Hold hands with the person in front of and behind you until you reach your final destination. Wait quietly for further instructions from the officer.
Teacher, I need you to walk out, follow the instructions of that officer right there. Go ahead.
You will be told to proceed to the next officer. Walk, do not run, and do not talk.
Walk towards the stairs.
Follow the directions of the officers guiding you during the evacuation. They could be giving you verbal directions
Right to the stairs.
or hand signals. Watch the pace of your line. Be aware of obstacles such as corners, fallen objects, debris, or stairs which may affect the speed your line can move. Don't stop until you reach the location you were directed to.
Keep moving all the way to the end of the fence. All the way to the end of the fence. Keep moving.
Verify attendance and wait for further instructions.
Connor. Here. Andrew. Here.
It's important to keep your hands visible to the officers. Most likely, you will be asked to leave your personal belongings behind. If your phone is in your pocket, bring it. If it's in your purse or backpack, you may not be given the opportunity to grab it. Don't be surprised if the officers are loud and demanding. They don't know the extent of the incident yet. They will give direct instructions that you should follow. Again, be sure to keep your hands visible. All of that goes for teachers as well. There may be circumstances where you can't bring your purse, briefcase, or backpack. Try to bring your keys and wallet. Also grab the attendance sheet and the red card, green card, along with your phone. At the evacuation assembly area, take attendance. If you are able to take attendance during lockdown, verify students in the assembly area against the roster you created during lockdown. If everything's okay, show the green card. Do you have permission to self-evacuate? Yes, but pay attention to the situation. Do you know where the threat is? Can you see the exit? Is it away from the threat, noise, or commotion? Remember though, a locked door is a proven time barrier. Staff, same answer, but don't leave your students. If you do self-evacuate, where do you go? Another school? Nearby business? Recreational center? A friend's house? Or your own house? Be sure to let your parents and the school know. In a lockdown, prior to a police-led evacuation, do not open the door for anyone. Police or administration will unlock the door. What can you take with you? It's unlikely that you can bring your backpack or personal belongings. You may not even have access to get into them once police enter the room. But if you can, bring your phone, wallet, and keys. Why do we keep our hands visible? Law enforcement officers are trained that hands can hold dangerous things. They will want to see your hands. You might be asked to evacuate hand in hand or with your hands on your head. What will police do? In some cases, during the evacuation assembly, officers will want to verify that students aren't at further risk. They may search students and staff for other dangerous items. Some of you may have heard the term shelter in place. Unfortunately, there are many different things that shelter in place could mean. With the standard response protocol, we shortcut it to state the hazard and the safety strategy. So what's a hazard? Something dangerous. It could be environmental, like a tornado or earthquake. It might be something like a chemical spill nearby. Your safety strategy is what you do in response to the hazard. It might be announced over the public address system, the hazard and the safety strategy, or it could be shelter for the stated hazard using the stated safety strategy. In either case, we repeat it. For example, tornado, get to the storm shelter, Tornado, get to the storm shelter. In earthquake country, the safety strategy is to drop, cover, and hold. For a hazmat risk, we would seal the room by taping plastic around the doors, vents, and windows. In coastal areas, tsunamis are a possibility after an earthquake. Going to high ground or further inland is that hazard's safety strategy. Listen for instructions. The situation may be very dynamic. Always be prepared for the unexpected. During a shelter event, teachers should try to take attendance and note the time. Other hazards and safety strategies. Discuss other local hazards and safety strategies. Those are the actions, directives, and instructions for the standard response protocol. That's what those icons mean. It's a shared vocabulary between students, staff, and first responders during any type of crisis or emergency here at school. While not officially part of this standard response protocol, I'd like to mention one more action and directive. Hold in your classroom. Hold in your classroom. It's used when we need to keep the corridors clear of students. Here's what students do. If you're in the hallway, get to your assigned classroom. Otherwise, students and teachers remain in their classroom until the all clear is announced. Teachers, here's what you do. Remain in the classroom with your students until the all clear is announced. Continue teaching, or if the lesson for the day is complete, offer time to read or study. Teachers should also close and lock the door. It can be open for any student that needs to get out of the corridor. What about class changes? If you're in the hallway, an announcement might be made to go to the nearest classroom, or proceed to your next scheduled class. We ask that you take a moment and talk to your parents about this standard response protocol and view the protocol sheet on your campus website. Peace. It does not mean to be in a place where there's no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart. We thank you for your participation in watching this video today. Any questions you may have can be directed to your campus administration or the Schertz Police Department School Resource Division. Stay safe.